Okay, it really seems like a lot of people don't like Platinum End. But is it that bad? Hey guys, so since Platinum End is currently airing, debates about the show have been lively, to say the least. Therefore, I wanted to make this video to explain why I kind of agree with the issues that people have with the show, but at the same time disagree with them. So let me explain. Platinum End is the new show of the famous manga duo Tsugomi Oba and Takeshi Obata, the people responsible for shows like the one everyone has to see in order to call him or herself an anime fan, and Bakuman, which is still an awesome series and you should watch it if you haven't. It revolves around a group of suicidal people in Japan who have been chosen by angels and granted different powers to decide which of them should be the new god of this world. And if that sounds a little bit Mirai Nikki-ish to you, then yeah, it is. People have been criticizing the show for many reasons. The most prominent one is that the show is just too edgy, with a lot of over-the-top violence, provocative death and unnecessary nudity. Others claim that the main protagonist of the show, Mirai Kakikashi, is simply an uninteresting and passive character, or that the philosophical dialogues about being a god and what it truly means to be happy lead to nowhere. People also claim that the show simply had too few interesting characters, and the characters we actually know better mostly have character motivations as flat as one page in Light Yagami's Death Note. And whereas most of this criticism is valid at some degree, I think there's a really important aspect that goes overlooked, which is the weight of expectations. If you look at any list about beginner anime to recommend to you, chances are very, very high that Death Note will be on this list. And for good reason. Since its release in 2006, Death Note has become a cult classic in the anime community. Self-proclaimed god and pretty sure mentally disturbed Light Yagami against potato chip eater L is a game of cat and mouse so intense and gripping that it is hard to stop watching. And so it is only natural that when the creators of one of the most prominent anime in the world are releasing a new show, it's clear that a lot of people will look extra closely upon it and raise the bar without even realizing it. Also, the different powers the characters of Platinum End are getting from their respective angels reminded me a lot of Death Note. Different arrows have different abilities, you have various classes of angels that can be more powerful, and so on. Compare that to the rules of the Death Note, and you can definitely spot parallels between the two. I don't blame people who compare the shows, I've done it myself. But I think it's important to look at this not from the eyes of a fan of their previous works, but as a standalone project. Back to the criticism, the edginess of the show. Yes, Platinum End has a lot of provocative scenes and I don't think that they needed to be that graphic. Death Note, for example, also had edgy scenes in comparison, but it never got to a point that it threw me out of the story. So yes, sometimes less is more in that case. What I don't think is that Mirai is a boring character. Because we spend so much time with him, we really learn a lot about where he's coming from, starting with the death of his parents and his abusive past towards his wish to be happy in this world, despite everything that's happened to him. And while people may argue that simply being happy is a flat motivation, I would disagree as well. This is a very dark, grim and nihilistic world Oba and Obata are presenting to us, and so we constantly feel Mirai's inner struggle when his hope is slowly fading away. The fact that despite everything he has been through to actively decide to take fate into his own hands makes him incredibly strong and more complex than a lot of people would admit to. Speaking of interesting characters, Nanato Mukaido was by far my favorite character of the show. In order to save his wife and his daughter and leave the world a better place before his disease will kill him, he's willing to do everything, even murder. Mirai, on the other hand, is not willing to kill, which creates a lot of intense dilemmas throughout the show, where you constantly ask yourself what you would do in that situation. Is it okay to kill one person for the lives of many? Does killing someone makes you a monster when it is for the greater good? These essential questions are thrown around in this show. For me, one of the strongest aspects. But with all the praise, I also have to admit that not every character has an interesting and relatable motivation. Besides Metropoliman, who seems like our main antagonist, there are only a handful amount of characters from which we learn their initial motivation, and sadly, most of the times they are not very convincing. In this regard, I really like to compare this show to Fate Zero, where we have a vast number of characters that all have relatable motivations for winning the Holy Grail. So while watching the show, you're constantly switching sides. Kiritsugu, yes, I want Kiritsugu to win. Or maybe Icefeel? I really like her and her servant is also pretty cool. Or maybe Karya. He really is a poor soul and deserves one wish. Why can't just everyone win this stupid game? In Platinum End, however, I feel like it's pretty much clear from the beginning on for whom we should be rooting for. I think that more three-dimensional character motivations would have really done a lot for this show. My biggest problem with Platinum End is that the whole project seemed a little bit too ambitious. There are simply too many topics discussed in this show. A huge cast with too little screen time, a wide range of philosophical questions that are more or less not answered, the topic of suicide and suicide prevention, and also a majority of millennial topics like the power of social media, Donald Trump, yeah, he's in there as well, and the hype of superheroes of the last years. Come to think of it, I wonder how Death Note would look like if it would be made by millennials.
And making them turn up.
At the end, I think there's light and darkness when it comes to the show. Did it need to be that violent? No, I don't think so. Would multiple more interesting viewpoints help the show? Yeah, for sure. But was it a gripping show despite its flaws? For me, definitely. I really rushed through these volumes, especially the first 8, because the suspense was nearly killing me. And wasn't the immense suspense level the one thing that made Death Note a show that we all fell in love with? No, Platinum Man is not as good as Death Note, but it was an entertaining show and I enjoyed most of it. At the end of the day, it will not be Tsugumi Oba's and Takeshi Obata's best work today, but it is far from the trash that everyone wants to make of it. So these are my thoughts on Platinum End. I know that this show has been a little bit controversial and a lot of people don't seem to like it, and I totally understand that. Nevertheless, I think it was an entertaining show despite the flaws it definitely had. So what do you think of Platinum End? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Let me know in the comments down below. I know I talked a lot about the flaws the show has, but at the same time I really enjoyed it. So if you are a fan of Death Note, I highly suggest you check out this show or watch the first few episodes and read the first manga and then make up your own mind. So it would be really nice if you like this video and also subscribe to the channel, and then you don't miss any of my new videos. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye bye. This is one of my favorite memes on the internet, I'm sorry.